sleep on me, better do something with your eyelids. I hear a lot of whining, but I don't hear a lot of rhyming. Whoa. Everybody got opinions, let it go into my ear, then I block that. Put me on stage, I'ma rock that. Saying you the best, stop that. Phony, I am not that. Yeah. What are y'all doing out here? What are y'all doing out here? Maybe you should spend a little less time with the women on your arms and a little bit more with your career. I ain't saying I'm the best.
Welcome in, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster, rock and roll Tuesday edition, which means we have a great show coming up here for you. NFL Draft is just a couple days away. Dive into that coming up momentarily. Frank Bonner's going to join us at 3:25. He'll have plenty to say, I'm sure, about the spring game that we just witnessed on Saturday, as well as NFL Draft, where some of these Oklahoma State players may in fact land. We'll get into much more as we continue as well. Maybe even get into some baseball coming down the pipe too. Should be a good show, so make sure to stay tuned. Zach, what's happening on this Tuesday, man?
Not much.
Nothing going on over there?
Just making it through. And it's supposed to rain pretty good the next 2 or 3 days. And so we're like, you know what? We need to get out there. We need to walk it. We need to figure out what's wet and what's too wet. We did a bunch of yard work last night. All that wind. My head is just full of grass. Like, I've been sneezing all day and,
wind
sniffing.
sucks.
And
Man,
it was good because there's not a lot. Like, it blew away all the dead grass, like
Yeah.
all the mowed grass. So that was cool. But, man.
like I know wind is really important for the ecosystem and all that and everything, but mine, it's just one of the most
It was so bad
inconvenient
yesterday.
things of my life.
And you can't
Hate
do
it.
anything about it.
I
It's
know.
not like you can turn
there's
it
no way
off.
to stop it.
Build a wall, turn the fan off. No, sorry.
No, you can't ask it to please quit.
No.
I've tried that too. Doesn't work.
Please.
It's just ridiculous, man. Especially Oklahoma. My goodness, I knew, but man, I've
What's
learned.
the old saying go? Where the wind comes sweeping down the plains? It's Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, there you go. So I think that we're going to get to Frank here in just a minute, but I think, what's interesting coming up here about this draft is if you, and we talked about this yesterday, if for sure you are the 49ers and you're like, Justin Fields is out of the picture, which again, that was the report, but as you well know, I'm not one of those that have bought in. By the way, I've seen a lot of people that when it comes to this subject, you're either on my side where it's like smoke, or you really are like, hey, they reported it, that means it's truth, and we're going to buy into it. There's no middle ground here. There's no, I don't know. It's either, yeah, they're going to go Fields, or no, they're going to go Trey Lance, or they're going to go Mac Jones. But let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, that they will, in fact, not go Justin Fields. If that is the case, as I said to you yesterday, I think the one team people have to have their eyes on that's going to have a chance and will, in my opinion, most likely do it, move up to grab Justin Fields, will be the New England Patriots. And it's even more unique this time around because of who they have at quarterback right now. But I'm 100% convinced that they will be the team that will go after him because he can learn from his future self in Cam Newton, right? If he wants to aspire to be what Cam Newton was in his prime, which was an elite quarterback that could pretty much do it all, right? That there's guys that we can really narrow down their game. Well, Cam was a true dual threat, and he was damn good at it when he was in his prime too. The Patriots need a quarterback. We know that. Cam didn't sign a starter's deal recently. He signed a deal that screams backup money. That means to me that they do plan on, even if it's not Justin Fields, maybe they grab Mac Jones. But I think, let's be honest here, the Patriots were shell-shocked, right, when Tom Brady left. Like, it looked like they didn't know what happened. It was like they were still stunned. They made that late move for Cam, which I thought had potential to pan out. I even kind of predicted that that's what they would do because I thought it might work. And I was right for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, it looked like, hey, I even had it written up ready to talk about it, that you had Bill Belichick sitting there like, man, I knew I did it. People thought I was done when Tom Brady left, but he's sitting in the office. He's got the hood up. He's eating his Subway sandwich, and he's all like, man, everybody thought I was gone. Nope, no. And then after 2 weeks, Cam gets COVID. He comes back. Patriots offense, no good. Patriots team, really no good. You have to deal with a team that had multiple opt-outs. Like, everybody on the defense decided to opt out right before the season. But with all that being said and how atrocious and unwatchable that offense still was, you managed to get 7 wins out of it. And that goes to show that the coaching is still a big deal, and the Patriots know what they're doing when it comes to that. You can squeeze 7 wins, which, by the way, is more than 12 other teams in the National Football League last year. So it could be worse. It really could have been worse. But they realize right now, okay, that part's over. We actually have to go into this draft with a real-life plan. Because I don't think they had a real-life plan after Tom Brady left. It was, we're going to sign Cam Newton. What we get in the draft, we get in the draft. We'll build through it. At the very least, we can maybe resort back and see what Jarrett Stidham has to do. And my goodness, that was not a good idea. So now, if they are seeing this news that Justin Fields could potentially be available, the Niners aren't going to pick him at 3. They are going to jump on it. I'm telling you right now, take it to the bank. That's my guarantee at this point. Yes, there would be multiple teams that would consider doing that, but I think the Patriots are in such a unique situation, and they'd be fine. If they sat back where they are and Mac Jones falls to them, okay, that's cool. They get a quarterback, another one. We have to go back to, well, Jarrett Stidham was the answer, so maybe Mac Jones will be. We'll see what he thinks about sitting there absorbing some Cam Newton information. But I'm telling you right now, am I crazy to think that the fit seems too perfect for them to be able to move up, grab Justin Fields, who, again, literally could be looking into a future mirror at Cam Newton? Because that's the type of player that he and everybody else around him wants him to become.
What are they 15? Is that where they're at right now? Yeah, like, you get on CBS, and there's quite a few. Like, you look at, there's a few guys that don't even have, like, they've traded it away to try to get other picks. They moved up to 10. I see Trey Lance a little bit, because in this mock you've got Mac Jones going 3, and then Justin Fields falls to 8. That's Carolina. Another one is true to what I think should happen, and you got Justin Fields going at 3, but they got Zach Wilson at 2, Justin Fields at 3, and then Mac Jones falls all the way to 10, which is another trade up to New England. So New England trades to 10. And they take Mac Jones, but I think if you're New England, and I think a lot of the drafts are looking like Trevor Lawrence 1, Zach Wilson 2, Mac Jones 3.
I've seen that.
I think if that's the case, and you're Bill Belichick and you're sitting there, and you're thinking like, okay, the top 3 quarterbacks are now off the board. Top 3 is in quotation marks. Justin Fields, that has to be the move. Because you look at how athletic he is, you look at how hard of a player he is, you look at what he did at Ohio State and the adversity that he's faced this past season. I think you need to be smart enough, and you need to take Justin Fields at 3 anyway. But what's fun is there's one, I think it's Pete Prisco. He's got one that's Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields going 2 to New York.
Oh, really?
If you're the Jets, that's the move, not Zach Wilson. But if you're the Patriots and Justin Fields somehow manages to slip past 3, you have to do whatever is necessary to go out and get what could be your franchise quarterback, and that's Justin Fields.
I think it is pretty interesting to look at where the Jets are because, yeah, everybody's kind of cemented at 1-2. They could shock everybody. And you know what? If they were sitting there at 2 and they were like, screw it, we're taking Justin Fields, then what? Everybody's like,
all
oh
of a
my,
sudden.
now we got to wipe the board clean. Yep. So are we moving? So much for moving. Hold up, to get that other team off the phone. Let's fix that. I mean, that would be.
So if that's the case, does Zach Wilson go to San Francisco?
Yes, yes.
Because why? I get Mac Jones, right? I mean, he had a hell of a season, but other than one season in Alabama's system where you've got some of the best players around you, what does Mac Jones bring you other than a couple of DUIs?
Well, and see, that's the thing is that people with the knock, it's like, okay, yeah, he was good, but he literally had infinite weapons, the best offensive line, the best defense, the best coach. Sure. If you put if you put me in there, and I'm not saying, look, Mac Jones is talented.
You're probably not throwing for 4,000 yards, but you're winning games.
I find a way to win a game. Yeah, I tell you what, hey, look, I'd say Devontae Smith, get open, I'll toss you the ball. He gets the ball, he scores. I'm like, look, I did a great job, even though
Jameis Winston could win games in that system.
He could throw 30 picks and probably still win.
Most likely still win.
Probably.
Because those picks are coming, you're up 70-43.
Garbage time picks. Yeah, I agree. I like Mac Jones,
Absolutely.
But I'm telling you, compared to Justin Fields, it's still, for me, I'm putting Justin Fields in front of him. But it is interesting, when you talk about Zach Wilson, I also think to myself, all right, Jets fans might be thrilled. They're like, Zach Wilson's coming over, and we get a brand new quarterback, brand new coach. Like, how many of these guys, these fans and everybody even watch Zach Wilson? He played at BYU.
Right? Did you see that tweet that was sent to us yesterday? I don't know if you accepted it or not. It was from a listener, and he sent us Eric G's tweet. Eric G took a picture. He took a screenshot. I think it was on his phone or on his computer, but it's every pick from the Jets from 2011 to 2018. You had Muhammad Wilkerson in 2011 was cut. Quentin Copples 2012 cut. Sheldon Richardson 2013 traded. D. Milner cut. That was in 2013. These are their first round picks, mind you. Calvin Pryor 2014 traded. Leonard Williams traded. Darren Lee traded. Jamal Adams traded. Oh, I don't know if you've heard of this guy, Sam Darnold traded. So it's not like that's what's crazy is you look at they've got the second pick and you look at the first 3 or 4 quarterbacks on the board. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, I think, is the lock. I think he's going to have a solid career. But then you look at those other 3 quarterbacks, who's going to have the most success? Who has the chance of being the most successful? It's got to be Justin Fields. I get Zach Wilson; he's good, and I think he could be okay. But I mean, if you're talking about athleticism, you're talking about talent. It's Justin Fields.
I think it's going to be really intriguing to watch Zach Wilson's progression because he's coming from BYU, right, where. Let's be honest, still that school, I mean, you're pretty enclosed, and your lifestyle's fairly enclosed.
Can you imagine him going to New York?
That's what I'm saying. Wow. You come over to New York. It's a culture shock. I think is 100%. What he's in store for here. Not to mention everything that comes with being on the Jets, which isn't a lot of positives. You get to sit there and listen to Robert Saleh, so that's great. But other than that, you got some work to do over there. So yeah, that is interesting too. And of course, they could shock everybody. And Justin Fields would probably be sorely disappointed to find out he was sitting at 2 instead of potentially 3. But I'm telling you, Zach, it's weird because you've got people that are either bought in on Justin Fields. Or you've got others that are like, nah, if you think about it, he's probably should be like a second-round pick.
Yeah, there's not a lot of middle ground.
It's crazy, man.
You either love him or hate him.
And the thing is, like, he's an elite talent. The only knock I really have on him, sometimes he holds on to the football too long. Mm-hmm. But that's fixable.
That's dual threat. You know, any quarterback that runs the ball is going to get knocked for, maybe he held on to the ball too long. Well, maybe he thought he could pick up 10 or 15 yards, and then at the last second, hole closes and then gets rid of it.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I think that the Niners are tiptoeing this and really playing it well here, and I would not be shocked when they pick Justin Fields. But I'm telling you, the Patriots are ready to swoop in. I think that is their first priority is okay. As soon as 3 is out of the way, and if he's still on the board, we got to go make a move. Because, again, that probably means Mac Jones is there. I would favor Mac Jones over Trey Lance getting picked. I know those 2 were the last 2 that came down in the last report. That it's going to be one of those 2. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm picking Mac Jones probably. So Trey Lance, if I'm the Patriots, do I really sit back and hope he's sitting there at 15? Probably not. So I'm going to move up. I'm going to grab Justin Fields. That means I'm going to make a trade with the Falcons, most likely at 4. Take Justin Fields and call it good because there's too many potential benefits that could come from expanding your franchise. The Patriots are a team and a franchise that really doesn't want to have any type of resemblance of a season like last year. You know, you go under 500, you get 7 wins, and this is a historical franchise that's known for constantly making the playoffs, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. Well, a big part of that, Tom Brady's gone. You wanted to see how Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft would respond, and I give them credit for taking a risk on Cam Newton because I thought the upside there was really going to be through the roof. We didn't know how he'd be coming off an injury. Man, he looked good the first couple of weeks. They took a risk, so I give them credit. It didn't pan out, but they still gave it a shot. So we shouldn't be too surprised that they re-signed him for insurance this year, but I'm telling you right now, to me, that also lets me know that they're going to be the prime candidate to move up to get a quarterback. So they're rooting right now for the 49ers to go ahead, and if that report is true, they're like, yeah, take Mac Jones. Take Trey Lance. We don't care. We're going to go up and get Justin Fields. And tell me if you've heard this before, Zach. Years in the future, it could be a year. It could be this next season. The Patriots are sitting back laughing because they're able to move up at 4 potentially, grab Justin Fields. The Niners are over there doing whatever they're doing with Mac Jones. Maybe he wins you a few games, but he's severely limited in terms of mobility, right? He better be a really good pocket passing quarterback at the next level to do anything for you. If not, it's what? Him and Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, you're kind of stuck there. They don't go for Justin Fields. The Patriots are back there. You know, who knows now? I know I'm buying in here, but let's say that they're just rocking and rolling. right? And they're really kicking butt, and they're back to their old ways. They're utilizing some of the pieces they added, a wide receiver in the free agency, and everything's starting to look good. They might even go up and say, hey, Bills, we're ready to challenge you guys again, right? You're the best team in our division, but we're ready to challenge you. I'm telling you right now, would we all be surprised if that eventually did happen? No, I don't think so, because Bill Belichick is still Bill Belichick. He's got some tricks up his sleeve here. He doesn't want to fall out of that as well, and I think that we're going to see a potential big move. Telling you what, that's why we talk about it 3 when it starts, because whoever's there, whoever's not there, you're going to see teams decide, all right, we're going to make a move.
100%.
And it doesn't mean just the Patriots. We talked about it yesterday. The Lions could do it. I know that's probably a long shot because they got Jared Goff, but they could still probably go ahead and make a move at a quarterback. I think the Vikings are in potential. The Eagles, and Jalen Hurts is supposed to be their guy, but we've heard that one before too, so you don't know. I mean, there's a lot of teams right there that are sitting really salivating at the idea of Justin Fields going to be available after 3. Well, guess what? So are we, and that's what we're going to see in the NFL draft, man. Can't wait. A couple days coming up from now. We're going to talk to Frank Bonner coming up, and we'll ask him about where he thinks some of these OSU players will go, get his thoughts on the spring game as well. It's coming up next here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Screaming out at the top of my lungs, tell the world that I found the one. Whoa, my baby's hotter than the golden sun. You make my heart beat like a bass drum. Listen to me now. I've been touched by an angel.
Welcome back to the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Tuesday edition, which means joining us now from the Tulsa world is Frank Bonner. Frank, how's a Tuesday going?
Going all right. Not too much craziness or anything like that, so it's been a pretty good day.
Yeah, we still got a little time. Obviously, you get the spring game out of the way for OSU football, and then next up's fall camp, and then the season coming up. So, but as you know, it will be here a lot quicker than we expect. I mean, we're going to be playing. It's going to be Missouri State in town a lot quicker than you think. So we're obviously excited for that. Now you got to see the spring game, and I thought today, we'll take a little bit of a detour from the position group stuff we've been talking about these last few weeks and take a look at the spring game. Which, of course, brings up the first topic when everybody that saw it or wanted to hear about it was, what did Spencer Sanders do? Right? Quarterback, what did he do? How did he look? So what did you think of his performance in somewhat of a limited role there in that spring game?
Yeah, I thought it was all right. And me personally, I wasn't necessarily going into it looking for what Spencer Sanders was going to do. Because,
right.
No matter what he did in the limited time that he had, there's not really much you can take away from that, good or bad. I mean, from a few series in the spring game, I was looking more about the younger guys who were able to get on the field a lot. What could they do? I'm more interested in Spencer Sanders when the summertime comes. If anything.
No, I completely agree. That's basically what we said yesterday. You can't put a lot of stock into any of that. But for the sake of this conversation, let me throw you a little bit of a hypothetical. Let's say I'm an Oklahoma State fan, and I see Spencer Sanders' performance in that spring game, where I hear about it, and maybe it's not quite what the average fan would expect to see. I don't know what they would expect, but maybe it's not what they expect. So they immediately start going to Shane Illingworth should be the guy. He threw a couple of touchdowns. They looked really good. What would you tell me in response to that?
I would kind of reiterate what we just said about
yeah.
You can't make that statement in April. And so I would just tell fans to kind of hold their horses on that a bit, because everything was so jumbled up in terms of ones mixing with twos and threes, and so whether you're looking at Illingworth's performance or Sanders' performance, how can you gauge that going against all number ones?
Well, it's just really easy to do. I mean, for a lot of people, that's like the first thing they run to, right?
Well, I think one of the things that frustrates me most about the spring game, and we talked about it on the podcast that's going to come out in a day or two. But you go back to pretty much all the losses, except for the Texas game last year. That was actually one of the best games Spencer's played in his entire career, other than the turnovers. What's one of the main factors on the defensive side of the ball in those losses? They're exhausted. They're gassed. Well, why is that? Well, it's because the offense has the ball for a total of 2 minutes, and then they either score or you're punting, and the defense is back out on the field. The defense is playing more than half the games. So if you go back to that spring game, was Spencer, did he go out and throw for 250 plus yards and, or 300 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns? No, he didn't. What if you watch that game, what's the main thing Spencer's ran offense did? So it worked on ball control. That's the thing. You go back to 2011 with Brandon Weeden, one of the best things that Weeden did was control the offense. The offense was out there for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 maybe. They're out there so many plays and so many minutes and he had the ability to throw it deep. You could score, and that's something that Mason did. Mason can go out there, and Oklahoma State fans got spoiled with it. It's something that Mason Rudolph did. He'd go out there and he'd throw the ball 3 times. It'd be 73 yards and a touchdown. It's a boom, boom, boom. But this defense is good enough now that it can't be on the field for 75% of a game. The offense has to be out there and running clock. They have to give the defense a breather. And that's something you saw on Saturdays. You saw that ball control with Spencer. The worst thing to happen on Saturday was Shane Illingworth throwing for a couple hundred yards and a couple touchdowns, because now all of a sudden fans are like, oh my God, did you see what Shane did? Shane went out there and threw a couple touchdowns. He hit a couple of really big deep balls. That deep ball sure is pretty. It reminds me of Mason. Well, okay, that's fine. Yeah, throw a deep ball. But Shane still has a lot of growing to do. Spencer's the starting quarterback. I'm sorry. He's going to be the starting quarterback. And yeah, he only threw for 150 some odd yards and a touchdown towards the end to Brennan Presley. But what else did you not see from Spencer? You saw no designed runs. I would say half to a little bit more than half of Spencer's game was non-existent on Saturday, because you don't want to get him hurt. You don't want to risk anything. So kept him in a pocket. You dropped him back a little bit. You didn't worry about running because it's pointless anyway.
Yeah, I think what you said about the game management, it's a good point. I think this sometimes gets lost on fans in terms of the coaching staff is always looking at the big picture. The coaching staff, in terms of Sanders and Illingworth, they aren't putting stock into who outplayed who more and for the starting job. They're looking at when we put Illingworth in, what are the things we need to help him get better at? When we put Sanders in, what are the things we need to help him get better at? And like you just pointed out, Sanders needed to get better at, managing the offense, longer drives. And so you're not going to put Spencer in there and try to have him gunsling, 50-yard bombs down the field, because you're trying to get him to manage the game. Well, Illingworth, people kind of wanted him to take some more shots down the field. And so when you put him in the spring game, that's what you're going to focus on with Illingworth. And so I think fans have to look at what the overall goal is for the coaching staff when you put quarterbacks in these spring games.
Well, and my biggest thing, and Patrick and I, we've talked about it. We talked about it leading up to the spring game. We talked about it after the spring game. I had no desire to watch the quarterback in the spring game, because you're not going to know anything at all. The coaches want you, and it's the worst thing for media, but if you're the coaching staff, it's the best thing that Illingworth went out there and did well, because it allows the fan base that all they're going to do is talk about the quarterback battle. That's going to force the media to talk about it, and that's going to be the talk. And you can continue to do whatever you want to do, but we weren't going to learn anything about the quarterback, and we probably won't know who the starting we won't officially know who the starting quarterback is probably until they run out there against Missouri State in September. But I wanted to know about running backs. What's the depth of running back look like? And we didn't. And I think the biggest takeaway is there were a lot of big name players that didn't play at all on Saturday. They like LD Brown had like 5 or 6 handoffs. So we didn't get to see a lot of LD after he went down. We didn't see Dom. We didn't see Dez. We didn't see Devin Harper, who's rehabbing. We didn't see Trace Ford, who's rehabbing. We didn't see either one of the Green twins, who is set to make supposed to have an impact on the offensive side of the ball at receiver. I wanted to know what the defense looked like. I wanted to know if they are as good as advertised. And that's another. Everything you saw on Saturday has to be taken with a grain of salt. But you can get little ideas. You can get whether or not Tay Martin is in shape and good enough to take over for Tylan Wallace. You can learn if the inside receivers are going to be any good. What's the offensive line look? Is there running back depth behind the top three backs of LD, Dez, and Dom? What are those looking like? What's corner going to look like without Rodarius Williams? Not the quarterback.
And I think also, like, spring game actually tells you more about next season than it does this upcoming season.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look
Absolutely.
at, because like you said, we didn't see a lot of big names, but you know who we did see? We saw Zach Middleton. We saw Jaden Bray. And it's not to say that those guys are going to be major contributors this upcoming season, but you can kind of see next year those are going to be the guys you're looking for.
Yeah, 2022.
And so I think the spring game is more about what the program as a whole is going towards versus, you know, what type of players we're going to see, you know, come September and in August.
Yeah, and the story probably, Frank, overall was the defense out of that spring game. I think
they're gonna be good.
It's just fair to say I would believe that, you know, they're going to be one of the top potentially in the country. I mean, is that fair that potentially have the right to be back in that top 10 in some categories in the entire country this year?
I mean, yeah. You know, every time we talk about the defense, you got to tip your hat off at Jim Knowles. I know his first year was kind of rough, and then you know he turned this thing around. And it was a lot of expectations for this defense last year, and for the most part, they held strong to those expectations. And then you look at the players who came back, the young guys coming up, and you saw what they did in the spring. I mean, if you're in that locker room, and if you're an OSU fan, or you know even the media, there's no reason to think that this defense can't be at an elite level this year. I mean, they've shown it, and they've continued to show that they have. Now, what's going to be the factor is how much help can they get from their offense. If they get the help from their offense that they're supposed to have, then they'll be really good in terms of number-wise. But if the offense is stagnant like it was last year, the numbers may dilute how good they really are.
Which I think is important with Spencer and ball control. Because if you can, I enjoy a bomb just as much as anybody else. You know, you go out there the first or second play and it's a 73-yard touchdown. That's gonna hype the crowd up immediately. It's gonna put an energy in the place. The team's gonna be excited. That's awesome. I love to see that. But when your whole offense is based on a decent run game, and okay, by the way, every pass we throw we're gonna try to have 30+ yards every single throw. That's not efficient. That's not a way to run an offense effectively, because the defense is just going to be gassed. The opposing defense can clue in pretty quick. You know, okay, well, they're going to have a couple of run plays and they're going to try to throw for 27 yards. Like, when we don't have to worry about the little dinks and dunks. So you look at this defense, you know, and I hit on it a little bit, but what you saw on Saturday was just a fraction because of that. I forgot, you got Brock Martin too. Brock Martin, you got Colin Clay, who played a little bit, but he's going to be back. There were so many guys that didn't play on the defensive side of the ball that I think this defense we talked about it yesterday, I think this defense has a legitimate chance to be just as good, if not better, than they were this past year, especially, like Frankie, you hit on it, especially if the offense can figure it out. If Spencer can control that offense and he's not turning the ball over, and the offense can stay out there for, you know, we're talking real time here, not game time, but if they can stay out there for 4, 5, 6 minutes of real time and take some time off the clock and give the defense a break, they're so deep at every position on the defensive side of the ball that you can keep that defense fresh the whole season long, barring any injuries. Yeah, I think this defense has a chance to be one of the best in the country.
Well, and Frank, like you said, with that being, you know, the offense what it is and hopefully not stagnant, I think there's probably a little bit of a fine line.
Yeah.
Because you, as that offense, are feeling really good and confident. It's like, hey, we have a defense we know can get the ball back for us, but at the same time, man, you got to be able to pick them up too, because occasionally they're going to have a series that's not so great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like Zach said, there's nothing wrong with a 4-play, 75-yard drive and a touchdown. Like,
Right.
There's nothing. But the issue that they had last year is that you'd have, back-to-back 3-and-outs, and then you'd have a 4-play touchdown drive. Well, that doesn't give your offense any time to rest. And so it's the 3-and-outs that really are going to kill this offense and killed them last year. If you can get, 2-3 first downs every drive, no matter if you score or not, I think that'll be enough to let this defense do what it does.
Absolutely.
Well, we're talking to Frank Bonner here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. What were some of the young guys that maybe stood out to you, Frank? I mean, I know Jaden Bray obviously with a big day. I thought John Paul Richardson played well. What'd you think about those guys?
Yeah, I think I think they were great, and I think it was. If you're a fan, you're excited about that because looking at this receiver group, I mean, you're excited to see what Tate Martin's going to do, Brennan Presley, but to see Jaden Bray and Richardson step up and like Gundy talked about, they're in terms of their build, they're ready to play Big 12 Big 12 football like today, right now, and so knowing that they have the bodies to play in this league, when they get the experience, there's no reason to think that they can't be good players, and I think they showed it on Saturday. And so I think that receiver room is probably real excited about what they have after looking at that spring game.
Well, and everything you hear from the coaching staff and some of the other guys, it's not even physicality. I think that I'm more impressed with the mentality of it. They're talking about, you got the Green Twins coming in, you got Jaden Bray, John Paul Richardson, these guys are here, and they're not saying, okay, I'm a freshman, I know my place, I'll play in a couple of years. No, they came in with the mentality of, listen, they brought me here for a reason. I'm ready to go. And they're challenging these older guys. And I think, okay, so you look at the inside position. You're going to see Brennan Presley and you're going to see Braden Johnson a lot at that inside slot role. Those are your two slot receivers. But with what we're seeing from John Paul Richardson, I think you're going to see him a lot this year. I think you're going to see Jaden Bray a lot this year. I think you'll see the Green Twins a lot this year. Now, a lot is a relative term. I don't think you're going to see him starting and playing, 60 snaps a game. But these young guys, they're physically ready, like you said, Frank. They're mentally ready, and they're good enough to go out there and they can play. So I think we will see a lot of these guys. But I think you're right. I think the spring game we learned, it's exciting that these young guys are playing well because in a season, once you get to that 2022 season, these guys will really be ready to go to take those places.
Yeah, and I think this is the if for them individually, I think this is the perfect time for them to be there because OSU's coming off of a year where they lost their two most consistent receivers in Dylan Stoner and Tylan Wallace, and so you're coming in as a freshman knowing that there needs to be roles that need to be filled. And so last year's younger guys and Brennan Presley, and then I know Tate Martin's not a younger guy, but we didn't see him a whole lot. They're gonna assume the roles of a Tylan Wallace, Dylan Stoner. Well, then if you're Jaden Bray and the rest of those guys, you're looking to be that second tier group. And if you can be that second tier group as a freshman, that sets you up to have a really good career.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Before we get you out of here, Frank, let me ask you a couple draft things real quick, because we have it coming up in just a couple of days. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to name a couple teams that have been in an updated mock draft for some OSU players, and you tell me which one you like to fit with here. So we have Tevin Jenkins, who's most likely the first rounder for Oklahoma State. And out of the Raiders, Titans, and Bears, if you had to pick one of those teams, where does Tevin Jenkins fit best for you?
Titans.
Okay, I can see that as well. I thought that, I saw yesterday, though, Frank, that the Raiders, there was like, man, there were a lot of people who were like, if he could slide right in there and kind of help what they're trying to do with Derek Carr. But if you look at it with the Titans aspect, you go in there and say, hey, we have a team that, we saw Tevin Jenkins do a lot of great things for the run game at Oklahoma State. Well, Derrick Henry definitely needs blockers in front of him. Maybe he could fit in right in there.
Yeah, and I guess, best for the team, team-wise, would probably be Raiders. But best for Tevin Jenkins in terms of stepping in and being able to be comfortable and all that, what's best for him individually, I would choose the Titans because of that run game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that too. I it's actually the best way to put it. Team-wise, yeah, the Raiders for sure. Okay, the last one for Tylen. I think he's actually in a really good spot in that second round, mid to late second round. If you look at the teams around him that are projected to be at that spot, you've got three of the best teams in the entire league that might select him out of Green Bay, Kansas City, or Tampa Bay. Where do you like Tylen to fit in there?
Oh, man. You got to go Tampa Bay just because, I mean, if you had to name a quarterback who was able to get the most out of their receivers, which quarterback would you say?
Yeah, you'd obviously go Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, and so, Tom Brady, I think he's done the best job recently of knowing, okay, this receiver, his strengths are X, Y, Z. How do we get that out of him the most? And so if Tylan Wallace goes to a team with a quarterback like Tom Brady, I think that will help propel his career.
No, I'm with you. I think he's in a really, really excellent spot right there with the three teams right there, three of the best quarterbacks that are playing right now. Has the potential to be great for his career. Okay, last thing, kind of the bonus question here. Because the draft coming up in a couple of days, the biggest topic is obviously who the Niners are going to take at number 3, and that's pretty much going to set the rest of the draft in motion. So for you, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, where are you feeling the 49ers are going to go?
From everything, I mean, the stuff that I looked at, yesterday people were saying, like on ESPN, Mac Jones and stuff, but do you move draft spots in order to get Mac Jones, or do you go Trey Lance? I think you've got to go Trey Lance over a Mac Jones.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that one yet, actually.
I feel like you have to explain yourself, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I haven't heard that take, and so I'm curious as to why you would take Trey Lance over Mac Jones.
I don't know. Like for me, and this, I mean, I'm not a GM, so I'm probably completely wrong. I always like to see teams get a little. Well, I say this, but then if you get risky, it can cost you your job. Yeah. But I like to see teams get a little risky, so I don't think they're going to take Trey Lance. I think it's going to be Mac Jones. But I would like to see them take a Trey Lance or Justin Fields because Mac Jones is the typical safe pick. He's going to have the highest ceiling. I mean, the highest floor, but not necessarily the highest ceiling. If these other quarterbacks pan out. And so I like to see, sometimes when it comes to quarterback, I like to see the sexy pick, the little daring pick. Mm-hmm. And so I would love to see them take a Trey Lance. They're not going to, but I would love to see it.
Maybe Jacksonville will shock everybody and take Mac Jones number 1.
Yeah, let's just have Jacksonville screw it up for everybody.
Yeah, they'll take Justin Fields.
And I'm telling you, it's an interesting idea because I think that you're sitting there and it's like we've talked about a lot. Yes, Mac Jones is the safe bet, but do you want to be safe at a time like this, or do you want to go after what could be, I think, an elite weapon in Justin Fields? And I'm telling you, Frank, I still think right now we're getting a lot of smoke from the 49ers to kind of hide behind.
Yeah. But the sucky part about it is, if you make the wrong choice, in hindsight, people are going to kill you for that.
Absolutely, yeah. That comes every year.
Enter Chicago Bears.
Yeah. I mean, every single season, and then, it could be the same with Oklahoma State players too.
Yeah.
That's why I think that Tylen's a big part of that, because there's going to be teams right there like, man, if we would have selected Tylen, look what he's doing in Tampa Bay or Kansas City or Green Bay, right?
Same with Rodarius.
Yeah, I'll say I'm glad I can sit here and talk about it on the radio and not have to actually make the decision.
Yeah, I'm absolutely
Have your
with you.
livelihood depend on
Yep,
it.
I'm with you, man. It is a high-pressure situation that you probably have at best a 50-50 shot of being really, really correct on. So it's wild, man. We'll keep up with that, see where everybody lands on Thursday, and then, of course, next week we'll talk about it and see if you were right indeed, Frank, that maybe the 49ers do go with Trey Lance. But that's Frank Bonner. Appreciate him as always. Coming from the Tulsa world, you can follow him on Twitter at Frank_Bonner2. Frank, thanks so much, man. We'll talk to you next week.
All righty.
That's Frank Bonner again on Twitter, Frank_Bonner2. Hey, he's going Trey Lance. Hey, I like it.
I
I was shocked to hear that.
I think Trey Lance is a really good quarterback. I do. I think what he did up at North Dakota State is really good, and I think they are a very good program that can recruit some big-time talent, and I think they could probably do well in the NFL. It's one of those things. It's like, do I take a guy who is really good? Because you look at Mac Jones, and Mac Jones is a good quarterback. I think Frank's right. He's got a really, his ground level is a lot higher than everyone else.
Very safe.
And you have to be good to have success at Alabama. There is a level of talent that goes into it. But when you're surrounded by two of the best receivers in the game and the best running back in the game and arguably the best offensive line in the game and a really good defensive line that can help get you back onto the field, and you're playing, West Alabama A&M in November, and then taking a week off and playing a team that you beat by 30 in the SEC championship game, pretty simple to do. It's pretty easy to do. So what's the, that risk could be pretty high. Like, yeah, he did well. He set numbers at Alabama. Damn, Alabama breaking the records. Who do you have with him?
A lot of focus on number 3. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, well, we had a trade go down last week at the end of the week, Chiefs and the Ravens. But what impact did that have on the upcoming draft? Find out next.
Showed you true colors, I don't like what I see. Story keeps changing, I know what that means. Know what that means, I know what that means. How'd you go from being that somebody I believed into being someone doubting me behind the scenes? Can't forgive it, sorry that I ain't never received. I mean, least you could've done was gave me an apology. But you're so prideful, yeah, prideful. Taking what you need, then blame it on me, man, that's so prideful, hey, prideful. Calling me conceited, oh, that's how you see it, well, that's so.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster. Tuesday edition. On Friday, the Kansas City Chiefs traded with the Baltimore Ravens to get offensive lineman Orlando Brown. And, I thought about that, Zach, that obviously I think it's a good deal, but it's interesting because around this time especially, like we are right now, too, everybody's still so caught up in what's going to happen in the draft. And it's like Kansas City kind of brought everybody back down to earth and was like, hold up. We're going to go after a guy that's not in the draft. We're going to trade up a pick. And when everyone was kind of like, well, hold on, wait a minute. That does still happen. They were thinking to themselves at 31, you know what? We're just not going to have anybody available at that point that we think is better than Orlando Brown. And we may have to give up a few picks here, but guess what? We really think we can help turn this guy into something that we already know what he is. But he comes over here. He's super confident. He wants to get it to work quickly. He wants to protect Patrick Mahomes. Wasn't thrilled with, I think, the situation going on in Baltimore regarding financials. People wonder, and I talked about it immediately as soon as the trade went down. They weren't happy because people weren't happy because they didn't offer a lot of money initially, didn't talk about an extension. Well, they want to win now, but also, how many times do I got to go back and cite, especially recently, contracts that have been, delved up and split up and bonuses moved around and money shifted to cryptocurrency? I mean, how many times with the Chiefs specifically? They have wizards in the GM office, man. They're sitting there. Brett Veach is I'm telling you right now, if they want to sign Orlando Brown to a multi-year extension worth a lot of money, they will do it. And no one should be surprised at this point. But I thought it was pretty interesting because in a good year in the draft, like I said, you may hit on half your picks. Maybe. There's a ton riding on who you select, especially if you're in the top portion of the draft in that first round. But the chances of them panning out are not great. How many times we got to go back to stories of guys that were taken way late, 7th round, just way late, and they turn into great players. Or guys that were forgotten and dropped, and they turn into great players compared to first-round picks, for instance. I saw the one you sent me the other day of Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
Right? He's like,
We're going to win Super Bowls.
Top pick, we're going to win Super
And
Bowls.
now he's a practice squad
He's
quarterback.
completely disappeared and failed at the NFL level. So, and coaches' jobs rely on it sometimes. GM's jobs rely on getting these picks right. And it's been completely elevated, too, with the emergence of how superstardom has completely come with some of these quarterbacks specifically. Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson before all this mess going down, Lamar Jackson. Everybody wants a franchise QB so desperately that they are willing to give up the farm to attempt it. And again, this is a crapshoot. You're going 50-50 here, hoping that he pans out. And that's why I think, look, if you have a Justin Fields in mind, if Mac Jones is in your mind as your guy, that you're going to have a chance at a franchise quarterback, then you go after him. Fine. That's completely fine because I understand your reasoning. But it is interesting to always look back and remember, hey, there are some teams that you can afford to not sit at 31 and wait around for something to fall there. You can go out there and say, hey, take 31. We'll go get an offensive lineman. This still does happen. Everyone kind of calms down, goes back to earth for a second with the draft, and they're like, all right, that happened. Now let's get back into the craziness of it. But it's a team like Kansas City that was like, we don't need that first-round pick. We'll take our guy, and we'll call it good.
Well, it's like when it happened. That's what you and I talked about. What did the Chiefs need? Offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Chiefs are at 31. Are they going to get a starting offensive lineman at 31? Probably not. You're probably not going to get an offensive lineman that's going to be a starter unless you just have absolutely nobody. So they're going to get a guy that they're going to have to develop. He'll probably play, but he'll be terrible. He'll struggle for that first year. Or you can go out. What is Orlando Brown, like 25? 24, 25, super young, incredibly experienced. He's a Pro Bowler. Bring him in, and guess what? You can get your offensive lineman in a third round, and then you're gonna have to develop them anyway. But they have talent at every position. They need to win a Super Bowl, so you go out and you get a Pro Bowl type offensive lineman that you can have for the next 10 years, and then better chance to win a Super Bowl.
That's why I'm telling you. I think
I'm
that
all for it.
that was the biggest issue. You need an offensive lineman if you're Kansas City. Okay, if that being the case, like I said, you can either wait and hope that maybe we get someone with potential, but guess what? Experience outweighs potential.
Yeah, because we all know that Tevin Jenkins isn't. He's not
not going to be
falling to
there.
31.
He's not going to be there.
No,
Look,
he's going early.
if he was guaranteed to be right there, I think Kansas City would stick around.
Forget Orlando Brown.
Yeah,
Bring it in, Tevin.
but Orlando Brown, you go after, you make a move that you like, and you sit there and you're like, hey, let's take our guy that we know has experience.
Absolutely.
We've seen what he does, and that's great. But I'm telling you, with Kansas City moving out of that spot, and you look back at that mock draft, they are sitting right there where Tylan Wallace is going to eventually fall. I think Kansas City needs a little bit of help at wide receiver. I'll say this right now, I would not be extremely surprised to see them go after Tylan Wallace. If he is still sitting there in mid-second round where they got that pick, and they've got a couple quick ones there now since the Ravens trade,
Steal of the draft.
I'm not sure they can go without making a move at him, because they don't want Tampa Bay to get him.
No.
I don't think they want Green Bay to get him. Those are two teams right around them.
Could you imagine those are the three teams
That's
that
what
are
I'm
going
saying.
after Tylan Wallace?
I think
My gosh.
he has the potential to land at such a great spot. If all three of those teams are right around there,
Absolutely.
you throw Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Kansas City up in the air, whichever one falls down first, you're like, great, can't wait. I mean, he's in a great spot, man.
Top three Super Bowl teams.
Yeah, I think he's in a prime position to win early. That's going to be for sure. So we'll obviously dive more into where his potential landing spot will be as the week comes in. So most stay tuned throughout the week, because we'll have our own little mock draft going on here and see where we think everybody's going to land. That's coming up too later on in the week. When we come back in hour number 2, we'll get into some buy or sell later on. One future Hall of Fame receiver may be on the move too. Find out who that is. All coming up on the afternoon sports drive.
And I don't know how we make it out when we make that on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the
Welcome back in hour number 2 of the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster, Tuesday edition. In the second hour, we're going to get started with some buy or sell.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You pick up the phone and you sell, sell, sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the afternoon sports drive.
Make money, money, make money.
Buy or sell, afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Just realized, Zach, I didn't even send you anything today, man. I've been off my game.
I know. I just sent one that I was just like, oh my God, buy or sell. Oh no. So I just sent one. Like I just kind of BS'd my way through one.
All right,
And
well,
so-
then you're going to go first while
Okay.
I send you mine.
Cool.
How
And
about
I still
that?
got to think of
Okay.
a second one. So we're a few days out from the start of the NFL draft.
Yeah.
And I probably should have saved this one for a while because I'm going to need more draft talk later in the week. But what the hell? Robert asked me today. He was like, "Who's your sleeper in the Oklahoma State player sleeper in this draft?" And I said both of mine. Every other day bounces back between Tylan Wallace and Rodarius Williams. So I'm going to go both of those guys. Buy or sell. Both of those guys are gone before the end of that second day, the end of the third round.
Oh, man. Tylan for sure will be. Rodarius, I think, is iffy. I could see it because I do think he, as we both know, very talented at that position. Someone that could help a team out in the NFL at that spot, too. You think about it, how talented receivers are at the next level. You need a guy like him who's going to step up and I think can make an immediate impact. At the end of the third round, oh, man. I think I'm going to sell because I'm not 100% sure I could buy in on Rodarius going in the second round. I think he will go early third to mid-third, most likely. That's where I'd be more comfortable if I were creating a multiple, like 3 or 4 round mock draft. That's where I'd have him. So I'll sell. Tylan Wallace, though, yeah, mid-second, he'll be off the board, no doubt.
Yeah, I think they're both gone before the end of the third round. I think Tylan goes. I don't think he slips past the second round.
I read that wrong. Sorry, my
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
But
no. Yeah, both by the end of the third round.
Yeah.
I think Tylan doesn't slip past the second, so for sure buy Tylan. I'll go ahead and buy Rodarius because of what he did this year. He was so impressive this year, and that's something that you need to see that growth. And a lot of people, it was funny. We've talked about it before. A lot of people were like, well, yeah, Rodarius, I don't even know why you're putting out an announcement that you're returning for another season.
Yeah.
You should return anyway. This shouldn't be a surprise. Like, oh, hey, Rodarius is coming back for another year. You have to. Like, yeah, you need to. But then he came back and turned himself into a first 3-round pick. I think Rodarius earned himself, easily a couple $1 million coming back this year. Because if he goes last year and doesn't come back for another year, I don't think he gets drafted. I think he's fringe 7th round guy last year, most likely gets taken as an undrafted free agent and signs a contract and makes a camp. But I don't think he gets taken last year. Now he's all of a sudden he's a 3rd round pick, easily a 3rd round pick. So yeah, I'll buy both of those guys. I think both of those guys are off the board before the end of the 3rd round.
Yeah, I will too. Like I said, out of the second, I would sell, but before the end of the third,
yeah.
I think Rodarius will go there as well.
Did I write 3rd?
Yeah, you did. I just read that wrong.
Okay.
Buy or sell. So we talked about Tevin Jenkins. I'm going to narrow it down to 2 teams for you: Raiders or Titans.
Where are those picks?
Well, I
know the Raiders were at 17, right?
Yeah, the
'Cause that was something we
Raiders.
talked about
The
yesterday.
Raiders were at 17, sitting there right by the Cardinals 16, Raiders 17, Dolphins 18. The Titans are at 22.
I would prefer him to go to Tennessee,
Right.
but I'll sell Tennessee just because I don't think he falls past 20. I don't want him to go to the Raiders. But I really don't want him to go to Chicago either. My God. I'm okay with him going in the first 20 picks because that means he's going to make a lot of money, and I think he's good enough and he's earned it. But if I had to pick between Las Vegas and Tennessee, I would take Las Vegas. I would take Las Vegas because I don't think he falls to 22. Even if he doesn't go to the Raiders, he doesn't fall to 22. He goes somewhere between 17 and 20. maybe 21, but I don't know if I see him falling to 22.
Yeah, I almost want to sell because I think the Bears have a really good shot at him at 20, but a lot of that's going to hinge on what happens at 3 again, because I think that Chicago's firmly in the mix again with moving up potentially to grab a quarterback. I still think they're one of the teams you have to throw in there with that possibility. Again, that's crazy to talk about because the quarterback carousel they have had has been unbelievable, of course, even since Mitch Trubisky. So they got to go back and consider at least doing that. So that's why I can't fully buy that part of it. I think, like I talked to you yesterday, I think Vegas makes too much sense. Now I know they're at 17, and that might be a little early. Because if he didn't, then he would fall. The Titans, of course, it makes sense too. I think the Colts actually make sense at 21 as well. That's where kind of in that area, 20 to 22 most likely is where he would fall. But out of those two teams with the Raiders and the Titans, I'll buy the Raiders still because I believe that really he is a solid fit for what they want to do with that run game. Brand new type of run game now because they can implement a new back in it with Kenyon Drake. He seems like the type of guy that would fit in with everything that they have going on over there. I think, think about it too with Tevin Jenkins. He comes into a highly competitive division going in there, and you got Kansas City, you have the Chargers, which I think are going to be a lot better this year with Justin Herbert in year 2. The Broncos are a quarterback away. Really do believe that too, and I think they make a move in the draft to get a quarterback. So it's no more Drew Lock. I'm going to base that off of what's probably going to happen in the draft for them. They get a quarterback. Who knows how well they could be because they got all their weapons back. And then you throw the Raiders in the mix too, which the Raiders got to stop being as bad as they are. That's the thing, and a lot of it I think is Derek Carr. People like to come back at me on that. Oh, he played really well last season. Yeah, but he's very limited. I think we've seen his ceiling at this point. So maybe that's where they have to fix things up. But tell me, Tevin Jenkins doesn't seem like a John Gruden guy.
Oh, absolutely.
He would come in and...
Well, even if you knew nothing about Tevin Jenkins and all you saw was his Zoom call with the media, that's John Gruden.
Well, I feel like John Gruden is sitting there and he's I wish I could do a John Gruden impersonation. Right? I can't.
I like that guy.
Yeah. That's not bad. That's not bad.
He's sucking his lips.
I can't do it. That's funny though. That's a good one. Yeah, he's sitting there. He's like, that guy Tevin Jenkins, pound the fist, man.
Yeah.
Can I get a what does he say? Can I get a knock or whatever he says on the table? I forgot what he says.
I think it's a knock.
But let's pound the table for Tevin Jenkins. He's our newest guy, first round pick. When he comes in, we're gonna run the ball like crazy because Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake are gonna have huge holes to run through. We're gonna
be driving Mack trucks.
Holes. You're going to have Derek Carr throwing for 5,000 yards, and forget that Patrick Mahomes guy. He's going to be the talk of the AFC West. I think that the Raiders I could see him being potentially sold on him right now. But the Bears, if they're not going after a quarterback, which I would be shocked, are licking their chops at Tevin Jenkins. The Titans would love him, as we talked about with Frank. The run game with Derrick Henry, I think he could slide right in there too.
For sure.
But would I be surprised to see him move around and be taken at 17, 18, somewhere in there? No.
Probably
so
not.
I'm gonna buy out of those two teams with the Raiders, Titans. Give me the Raiders.
Yeah, I just don't think he falls. I don't think he falls. I would be surprised. I'd be surprised if he falls past 21.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going baseball.
Okay.
I'm going Oklahoma State baseball. And I'm going to throw 2 numbers at you. I'm going to see if you can guess. You got 13
Oh boy.
and 15. They're stats, or no, they're not player numbers. They're just generic. We got 13 and 15. Oklahoma State baseball.
15.
Yeah.
So it involves a team, not just a player.
It involves a player and the team.
Oh, player and the team.
Yeah. Oklahoma State baseball.
Does that have something to do with Christian Encarnacion
Does.
He's sitting on 15 homers, right?
He is.
Okay.
Now 13.
13.
You can get this.
What does he have 13 of? Oh, this is the team
This
part.
is the team.
Do they is it something like the games they win is when he's hitting a home run or something like that?
13 games left in the season.
Oh, okay. All right. That was a good guess, all right?
It was.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to get it.
was
13
close.
games, and I was like, ooh. Buy or sell that he can eclipse 25 homers
Oh!
just in the regular season.
10 more.
He's got to hit 10 more in 13 games. And wow. let me give you the schedule here.
Yeah.
You got 3 against OU, who's towards
Doable.
the bottom of
Pitching's
the bottom
terrible.
of the table.
Yes.
You've got 3 against Kansas, who is dead last in the Big 12. You got 1 more against OU. You got 3 against Baylor, they're playing pretty well, but you got them at home. And then you wrap up against a 3-game homestand against New Orleans. Buy or sell, he can hit 10 homers in 13 games.
Ooh, man. Hey, you know what? He is lined up, like you said, with those teams to do that. Because
Absolutely.
Oklahoma's pitching is not good. Kansas pitching is not good at all.
You're out of the grinder.
Yeah, I know. After you got past Texas, it's like you really need to win the rest of these games. I know that's a lot, but you need to win a majority of these games. Go through and wipe them out.
You got to finish with a winning record.
And I looked at, absolutely. I looked back at the numbers that you rattled off yesterday again because he got named Big 12 Player of the Week.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And it's just unbelievable in that 5-game stretch. He hit 3 bombs. Obviously, when he hit for the cycle, the total bases at 26, the doubles, the triples, all these extra base hits were just absolutely incredible. And he was hitting at an average of 526, which is unheard of through 5 games. That's over half of the time you're getting a hit.
If it makes you feel any better, he hit 2 against TCU and 1 against Texas. 2 of the best pitching staffs in the league.
10 or
plus, if we go back to he hit 1 against Texas Tech.
10 and 13 games.
The only series he hasn't had a homer in. The only more than 2-game series he hasn't had a homer in is Vanderbilt, and he really struggled against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, that was the best. I think I'm going to sell as much as I think it's possible because it is laid out for him in terms of opponent pitching. I'm going to sell. I'm going to say he hits 7.
Okay.
And that's where it's capped off. Now, if we come back after this season, like, he hit 10 more home runs in 13 games. Part of me is going to be like, not surprised. Another part of me is going to be like, dude, this guy, like, I don't know if I've seen a longer stretch for a player where he's as scorching as this. Like, why would you even pitch to him at that point? I wouldn't throw anything over the plate to him. To me, it would be one of those really rare automatic intentional walk situations every single time he got up to the plate. So give me the sell, but I think it gets close.
You know what he was hitting going into the Texas series?
What's that?
He was hitting 403, and he's still hitting 390.
Yeah.
And you're
imagine hitting over 400 in D1 baseball.
My God,
this long through the season.
And that's what's crazy is he started the season and just steadily climbed. It was 250, then 444, and then the lowest he's been all year was 246 against Tech, the first game against Tech. And from there it goes 261, 284, 282, 305, 321, 330, 337, just up. It's so tough because you look at who they're playing. I think he could, the 4 games against the next 7 games, the 4 against OU and the 3 against Kansas, I think he has a legitimate chance to hit at least 5 home runs. Because you look at, now I get that 3 of those games are in Norman, and it is tough to play in Norman, but the OU series always brings about so much emotion from both sides. But you look at what he's done so far on the year, easily one of the most electric hitters in college baseball. I'll sell 10, but I'll say I will not be surprised at all. Like, if he goes out and he hits that mark, I think it's very doable that he can go out and hit 10 homers in the next 13 games. Now, if I were to say between now and the end of the season, which very easily, depending on how pitching goes, could be Omaha. Like, even if they make it through super regionals, like, we're talking 20 games here, 20-plus games. You got the Big 12 tournament coming up. Yeah, he's closer to 30. Yeah, I think it's very doable. But between now and the middle of June, for him to get close to 30 homers. But between now and the next 13 games, I'll sell. But I think he gets closer to 25 than he does 15.
I'm with you on that too, man.
I would say on the high side.
Yeah, it just seems like every game it's like guaranteed bomb. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Buy or sell. Coming up in the draft with the top pass catchers. I think we're pretty much all set that Kyle Pitts most likely will be the first pass catcher off the board, which is pretty crazy for a tight end to be that high. But saying that is the case, buy or sell Jamar Chase out of LSU or Devontae Smith from Alabama, the first one taken off the board at wide receiver.
I I would probably take Jamar Chase. I think I've seen more. I think I've seen more drafts that show Jamar Chase higher. I think you're looking at the Alabama thing. Like he incredibly talented. There's no doubt. But I think if you're looking at Jamar Chase, I think you look at what he's done. I think there's more of an upside there. So I would take Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I think, Jamar Chase with the Bengals at the position they're at, I think they're in a really unique spot because they're one of the teams in the top 5 that can comfortably say we're not getting a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have Joe Burrow. Let's focus on something else. So does that mean you go after Penei Sewell and you upgrade protection for Joe Burrow, or you go after Jamar Chase and you upgrade playmakers? By the way, a guy that was electric with Joe Burrow in that magical 2019 LSU season.
That goes back to you and Frank talking about how you're glad you're not GMs because pick your poison. Like, I think if you take Jamar Chase there at 5, you're obviously setting really, really well. Or 4, I guess it'd be. I think you're setting really, really well. But then again, like if you don't have protection in front of Joe Burrow, what's the point of going after a talented receiver that has great chemistry, that's had great success, that put up one of the best seasons in college football history? What's the point if he's sitting on the sideline with a busted up collarbone?
Yeah, and I think the Bengals have 2 pretty solid tackles right now. They're lacking another playmaker, though, and Jamar Chase could be that answer. So I think he goes first over Devontae Smith. A lot of the drafts do have Jalen Waddle going ahead of Devontae Smith, too. I'm kind of leery on that, though. We saw what Devontae Smith did. He had no competition in college. Now there's questions about his size. I don't know if you saw the latest quote from him. By the way, they asked him about.
I have not.
They asked him about a lot of the talk about, hey, you're not the right size as a wide receiver in the NFL, and he goes, man, well, we're not supposed to be bodybuilders. That's what his response was, because you saw the pictures of DK Metcalf, for instance, of AJ Brown, who look like they are actual superhumans. Like they look like they have Batman bodies chiseled out. It's unbelievable. Devontae Smith doesn't. The classic picture, right, of him on the sideline where he's standing there and he's got the shoulders all squared tight. And he looks like this really slender, skinny dude. And the classic picture of Mac Jones with the cigar in his mouth, right? He's got the little pudge belly, and you got skinny man Devontae Smith next to him. You're like, you just got beat by these 2 guys, and it's incredible to see. So I think that there is, I'm a little leery on Jalen Waddle necessarily being taken in front of Devontae Smith. I could see somebody making that move early and grabbing him instead. But Jamar Chase, I think, is the next guy up in terms of young receivers in the NFL. I think him and Devontae Smith are going to have great rookie years wherever they go. And I'd really love to see Jamar Chase back with Joe Burrow. That's an offense right there that you want to get going. If you keep Joe Burrow healthy throughout the entire season, which you didn't get to do last year, not saying that it would have been like this huge magical year for Cincinnati because they still needed help in a lot of places. But you add Jamar Chase, you get Joe Burrow healthy. He was making some really good throws before he went down last year. You have a decent offensive line, a pretty solid running game as well. The defense is what's questionable, but other than that, look, you're in a really competitive division. The Browns are no longer the Browns anymore. The Steelers, we know, are always going to be in the mix. The Ravens as well. You don't want to be that team that's now the new Browns in the AFC North. So I think they want to avoid that. It's going to be an interesting spot.
What's interesting, here's a CBS mock that I just found, and I love how he starts it off. He's like, hey, mock drafts are hard. Like, yeah.
Let me just go ahead and make that clear.
Let me just say, before you say I'm a moron, mocks are hard.
Yeah, but that's the thing, because everybody immediately looks at these mock drafts and go, what an idiot. The guy has this here. I wouldn't have him here every single one.
So he's got Mac Jones going 3. He's got Kyle Pitts going 4 to Atlanta. He's got Penei Sewell to the Bengals, Jamar Chase to Miami.
Yeah,
and I've seen that a lot.
Yep.
He does have the Patriots moving up to 7. Taking Trey Lance.
Yeah.
And then you get Patrick Surtain going to Carolina.
Ooh.
Let's see.
Instead of
Jalen Waddle to the Giants at 11. Justin Fields going 14 in a mock trade to Chicago Bears.
Chicago's like, yeah, we got it done. That's funny. I saw an article written about that today where the Bears were like, this guy was talking about the Bears saying, you know what, Nagy and Pace got to hold on to their jobs, and it's looking really bad. So how do they save themselves at least one more year? get Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Because then everyone's like, the excitement is there. The articles are being written. The focus is on him.
Absolutely.
If he doesn't pan out, then you're gone. Sorry, you've had your opportunity. Like, you're gone if he doesn't pan out. If he does, everything's good. Back to normal.
And then you get Tevin Jenkins going 18 to Miami.
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
would be okay with that.
You know, he's falling around that 17 to 22 range, right in there. It's there's a lot of teams
I
that
think
could use
you
him.
see it. I think you see anywhere between 17 and 22, and honestly, probably that sweet spot's right there in the middle between those two.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there's a lot of teams that could definitely use what he brings to the table. Draft in just a couple of days we get you prepped for. When we come back, one of the I think he's absolutely a guarantee for the Hall of Fame. Talking about one of the best wide receivers to ever do it. Still playing right now in the league, but his name's being tossed around by his own general manager to be traded. Find out who that is next.
Whoa.
Staring as I go, I gave until my soul hurt, never told them so. They're watching as I fall, somewhere down below. Maybe I'm just falling to get somewhere they want, get somewhere they want.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster. Tuesday edition, as I previewed before the break. One of the top wide receivers left in the league right now, who I think is a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. Name is being tossed around, and it's one thing for a rumor mill to have your name tossed around. It's like, nice, that's that could happen, whatever. It's another for your GM to actually come out and confirm, we're fielding calls on this guy. And that would be Julio Jones, who, would you agree, Zach? I mean, surefire Hall of Fame when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I don't know when. I don't think he's like, first ballot comes around 8 years later and he's, automatic shoe-in. But I think before it's all said and done, sometime within the next, 15 years of him retiring, for sure.
Let's just say it's not going to be a Julian Edelman situation where we have to have this giant debate. Whether
No. He's for sure a Hall of Famer. Now, whether or not, I think when could be a debate. I don't think it's going to be within, the first 5 years, maybe 10 to 15.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely going to get in. And it's strange because he's one of those guys that's been around for long enough now, 10 seasons with the same team. It'd be weird to see him with somewhere else. But the GM was asked about it and basically was like, yeah, we got to field calls. We got to do what's best for the team. And it's not a 1-2 thing. People, when they hear that, immediately think, well, it must mean because he's getting older, he dealt with injuries last year, so that means he's gone. No, what it is actually, it's a big cap deal. The Falcons have been really bad as of the last number of years here with cap issues. They're really bad. I mean, it's become almost as notorious with them as not being able to get it done in the fourth quarter or giving up a giant lead, is that they can't control the cap issues. And this is one of those situations that if you were to trade Julio Jones before June 1st, you would save over $15 million in the cap, which is great. That's something they need right now. And you come in, if you're the Falcons, and you have a chance to kind of get out of some of these situations like Terry Fontenot is doing and basically say, look, we want to rebuild, but at the same time, we feel like we're right here with this offense because we have Calvin Ridley, most likely a couple more solid years out of Matt Ryan. Like, we know he's guaranteed up in the 4,000s when it comes to yards. We just have happened to be in situations where astronomically we have managed to lose games, right? I mean, it's become a joke the way the Falcons have blown huge leads. They've been in positions to win, most notably the Super Bowl. Last year it happened multiple times. It happened against the stinking Dallas Cowboys, as we remember, in an unprecedented way there with the onside kick. But he is going to be available, I think. And whenever this was said by Fontenot, to me that means he's gone. I don't think that Fontenot is this candid and discloses that they are in talks with the media saying, you know what, he might be out of here without that being a for sure thing. I think that means Julio Jones is out. And what a shame it would be, because if they do take Kyle Pitts at 4, it's like, great, we got Kyle Pitts, but we lost Julio Jones. If we had Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, That's dangerous with Matt Ryan. I don't care who you are. That's dangerous right there. So Kyle Pitts may be in, Julio Jones may be out. I was looking at some of the betting odds, of course, as we like to do, where he may land. Here's your top spots at plus 250, the Baltimore Ravens. At plus 300, the Raiders. Plus 500, the Titans. Plus 700, the Patriots. Plus 900, the Eagles. And plus 1,000 to the Colts. When I saw the Patriots at plus 700,
I was going to say,
I thought to myself, remember what I talked about with Justin Fields? Would we all be shocked if the Patriots managed to take Justin Fields, if he did indeed fall in the draft, then they sign Julio Jones, and then we're all talking about New England again? I mean, just we are. They would be the biggest story back in the headlines of the entire landscape of football, and that's something I really do think is an interesting look there with those odds. The Raiders, you can't convince me that Julio Jones wants to spend his final years in Baltimore.
No.
You just can't. I love Julio. I think he wants to win, and he may have a better chance at that, ultimately winning games with Baltimore, but getting farther in the playoffs and all this stuff, no. This isn't a pass-friendly team, as we know. However, I have said multiple times I'd like to see a veteran receiver go over there to find out if what everybody likes to say is true, that, well, Lamar just hasn't had a true playmaker yet. Okay, well, if we got Julio and it was the same old story, then maybe we could put that one to rest. But I thought that was interesting there at the top of the odds. It would just be really strange to see Julio Jones in a different uniform, especially purple and black.
Yeah, and that's something. It's like the Tom Brady effect. When you don't. I think we're coming to the end, honestly, of players staying with one franchise for the majority of their career. I think
that's in all sports, by the way, too.
No, absolutely. You look at it, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be one of those rare breeds where he probably sticks around at Kansas City for probably a bulk of his career. I could see him maybe the last 4 or 5 years maybe going somewhere else. But I think outside of maybe a handful of offensive linemen and maybe a quarterback or two, I think we're running to the end of players staying with the same franchise. So I don't necessarily think it would surprise me if I saw Julio Jones leave, because Tom Brady left. And that's something I think a lot of people, I don't think, if you had to say one player in the league before Tom Brady left, okay, who's the one guy who's going to stay with the franchise till the day he retires and snap one to the last snap he takes, whatever side of the ball is going to be on, he's going to stay with the same franchise the entire time. It would have been Tom Brady. With what Tom Brady did, what else is there to prove other than now we know is I can go to another team and I can win there too. But it's like you've done it all. You've won MVPs. You've won countless Pro Bowls. You've won countless Super Bowls. You count a Super Bowl MVP. What else can I do? I'm retiring there. So it wouldn't shock me. It'd be weird, but it wouldn't shock me if Julio left and not left, but got traded away or dealt somewhere else or whatever. But I could see it happening.
Yeah, and it's I'm with you on that with Tom Brady, because when that happened, yes, I still knew obviously that anybody can leave at any time and go to a different team, but that's kind of something you just said. Well, when it happened with Tom Brady, it was kind of cemented. It was like, all right, literally anybody. Yeah, anybody it can happen to him. So Julio, yeah, for sure. And I think it makes sense from a financial standpoint. I would love the Falcons try to find a way to restructure things to keep him if they were indeed getting Kyle Pitts, perhaps, with these rumors being floated out there and Fondo basically saying that he's potentially on the move. That means that they aren't planning on Kyle Pitts. I mean, they've been one of the dark horses to get a quarterback at 4, because Matt Ryan, like I said, probably has a couple more years left, but they'd like, as again, another situation where you could have a young guy be groomed by one of the better ones to ever do it. And Matt Ryan could sit there and teach a young quarterback a lot, and particularly one like Mac Jones, who is, in some people's eyes, the beginning of another Matt Ryan, because he's that style. Who knows if he's ever that good, but he's that style. So it is interesting. I think that Julio could make an impact where he goes, obviously, but he has to stay healthy. Last year he ran into injury problems. That was a bummer, because you think that, if you see what he's done over his career, he's had 7 of his 10 seasons well over 1,000 yards receiving. He's one of the best to do it at that spot. I really do believe it, and I think his years are numbered in the league at this point. but he can still be a difference maker. The question is, can he be a guy that handles a solid workload? Can he come in and immediately be that number one wide receiver that you're looking for? That's why I see those odds with the Ravens. I'm like, oh, tell me it ain't so, Julio. If that's the case, like, even you may be getting a lot of money, but tell me you don't want to go over there and waste what could be, the last couple good years you have before it all basically starts to give out on you, because the injuries are legit. And it's interesting with Julio, because there's a storyline always around him where it seems like he's always injured, which isn't the case. If you go back and look throughout his career, that's not true. They've just been at really significant times, it seems like, where he's been injured. So wherever he goes, I feel like he's going to have some sort of success. I think he's too good not to. Can't wait to see where that happens. But please tell me it's not Baltimore. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, we will tell you what we learned to round out this Tuesday. It's coming up next.
I don't wanna wait for our lives to be over. You have enough, but you take it how you left it. This is give and take. Take your time, take me under. I wanna know, but you show me what I'm missing. In the playground of Southern California, running in the streets out there.
This is the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster on this Tuesday afternoon as we get ready to say goodbye. But first, we're going to tell you what we learned.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter. Let's find out what the guys learned today on the afternoon sports drive.
Well, I learned something today.
So I've learned to really enjoy when I'm watching the St. Louis Cardinals play baseball this year. I really want to enjoy as much Adam Wainwright, Yadier Molina content that we have left, because there's not a ton of it left. The careers are going to come to an end shortly at some point, at least you think. But I saw this stat that the Cardinals threw out there, because last night Wainwright pitches to Yadi again. The combined age of last night's starting outfield for St. Louis, 3 guys, was 72. The Yadi and Waino's combined age, 77. Those two combined were older than the entire outfield combined. And it's truly incredible. Last night, Wainwright throws a complete game, which is unheard of anymore. Gives up two runs, which were both solo shots by Rhys Hoskins, which is a heck of a hitter. He is for Philadelphia. That was the difference in the game. Zach Wheeler came in and shut down St. Louis's offense. They had 1 hit against him. It was unbelievable. And but because you waste a gem like what Wainwright did, the fact what he's doing at this point, like with his curveballs, is unbelievable. I'm telling you, if anybody's like, man, they really want to see some good baseball, tune in to when Adam Wainwright throws, because even at this age, his curveball is as sharp as anybody's in the league. You've got guys like Bryce Harper, some of the best hitters in the league, that can't do anything with it. It's unbelievable. The only time he messes up is when he leaves a hanger over the plate, but that doesn't happen all that much. It was just crazy to see that number. I was like, man, those two are obviously going to go down as legends. They already are with the Cardinals, and who knows when they ever will stop, because there's been the talk that those two are going to retire together. And I'm telling you, Zach, I'm holding on to this dream that I've had, okay, because we're getting more and more talk that next season in Major League Baseball, the designated hitter is going to be universal, which is, to me, long overdue. Like, it's something that should have happened a long, long time ago. So with that being the case, and if that does happen, you get Albert Pujols back, which, by the way, he's hitting bombs still for Los Angeles, in case anyone's not surprised by that. He's got 5 home runs this season, hit 1 last night. He comes over, designated hitter, final year of his career. That way you have Yadi, Adam Wainwright, and Albert Pujols. One final time, one round of however it goes, one final round. The Cardinals could finish 3rd in the division. You get a playoff spot maybe, and you're out in the first round, so be it. Or you go all the way and find a way to get to the World Series. Again, I think that's a stretch, but so be it. Whatever happens, happens. You go out with all 3 of them on the same team. That's my dream that I'm still holding on to faintly. I know it's still a dream, but when I saw those two and they continue to watch just how successful they really have been, it's just unbelievable to see the number of successful outings that those two have had out there for St. Louis in their career. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no doubt. So I've learned that more and more journalists, new age journalists, 30 and under, I'm included in that 30 and under, but I don't include myself in this category because more and more of these newer, younger journalists need to do better research. It blows my mind the amount of these national heads, if you will, throwing out these takes that it's just like, what in the hell are you talking about? Like, do you not understand sports like at all? There's an NBA writer. I won't say his name, but he's a younger writer. He's verified on Twitter, and his bio just says NBA reporter. Okay. He goes, I was at Chipotle, and they were talking about Trae Young, saying he's, quote, the best thing to happen to the Hawks, end quote. I don't think people outside of Atlanta realize the city has never truly had an icon to get behind like Trae Young. It's more than just basketball. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, Chipper Jones, Dominic Wilkerson, Tom Glavine, Hank Aaron, Deion Sanders for two teams in that city. I mean, and I know I'm leaving off guys because the list is so long. Like, and then there was a list that I saw yesterday. I don't think it was from yesterday. I think it was from the day before, but I saw it yesterday, and it was some guy. I believe he was a Michigan fan of Michigan. I don't know who he works for, but he put out a list like the most, and this was the caption: the most electric college football players of all time, not of the last decade or 2 decades, of all time, and every one of the players was from 2000 to current. As if the greatest college football player of all time, Barry Sanders, never existed. And that's not me just saying I'm an Oklahoma State guy. I know that Barry Sanders is really good. It's the fact that Barry Sanders won a Heisman Trophy and is dubbed one of the greatest college football players, if not the greatest college football player of all time, one of the greatest NFL running backs of all time to never win a Super Bowl. And then he comes back and defends his argument like, well, yeah, of course people that make these, like, you're gonna list people that you grew up watching. Like, oh, that's fine, but don't say these are the most electric of all time.
Reword that there.
Because there have been electric football players since the beginning of football, not since 2000. Like, he had Reggie Bush, number 1. I'm not going to argue that Reggie Bush is one of the most electric football players of all time, but he's not more electric than Barry Sanders. Come on, bud. What are you doing?
The guy you talked about first seems like the typical, you know what? Let me get some clicks type thing.
Have to.
Yeah.
And because Trae Young even came back and he was like, hey, man, I appreciate all the support, but this ain't it, my guy.
Everybody knows that.
My God.
The rich history of athletes in Atlanta sports. Come on now.
Sheesh.
I mean, let's be honest. You just named off a ton of them.
I mean, there's more influential golfers from Atlanta.
I mean, I like Trae Young, man, but I think that the NBA world and that extends to these types of reporters, 100%. Like you said, are desperate for, man, we gotta keep stuff relevant. We gotta keep stuff relevant.
They are the modern day Jim Rome shock jock.
Yeah, I agree.
Those have long since, I think, gone out of style on a broad scale. But you have some of these people that are they're making these takes. Like Stephen A. Smith came out with one today. He drops his top 5 players without a professional title. Now that one. That's a Dan Marino, Carmelo Anthony, Charles Barkley, Barry Bonds, Allen Iverson. Okay, yeah, you could swap Barry Sanders into that list, but there's a lot of people like, oh, what is all the disrespect for Barry Sanders? Like, that's a more I like that list because that's a much more subjective list than saying, well, the most electric college football players of all time. Oh, by the way, of all time, I'm only going from 2005 to current. And if you have a problem with it, well, that's because those are the guys I watched, but these are of all time.
Yeah, those are the types of guys that, like you said, like hot takes are great and stuff, but and they can be entertaining. But a lot of the time when they happen on social media has enabled this, like Twitter, you can just put it on there. You don't have to respond to any of it. Like, you don't have to back any of it up. Just put it out there.
And,
right?
and you could turn replies on.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't have to do anything.
You don't have to look at it. So, but when you do it for a living, then it's and then like you said, it's become now it needs to be much more informed than like you talked about like Jim Rohn. He did a good job of it.
Jim Rohn knew what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That old boy made his money.
And Stephen A. Smith does too, right? I mean, he
100%.
does a great job of that aspect of it as well because it gets people fired up and they start talking about it and everything too. But you have to be more informed. And I've also learned that just because they got that check mark on them on Twitter don't really mean much.
It's all NBA reporter.
Yeah, that should tell you right there.
I'm an NBA reporter.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me put that in my bio and get a check mark. Come on now. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Thanks to Frank Bonner joining us earlier on. That's Zach Lancaster. I'm Patrick Wheeler. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock with Tom Dorado will join us, and he's already told me I'm good to disclose his Where Are They Now guest, which will be Mike Daniel, which is one of the, for some people, most well-known OSU baseball players, formerly Hall of Honor catcher back in the early 90s. Was one that took the team to the College World Series. So there's some people that probably heard that name are like, oh, yeah, I remember him.
Think about that. Like, I was born in 91. I'm not trying to show any disrespect, but I've never heard of Mike Daniel. You go throughout the history of Oklahoma State baseball, and Tom could have a different guy on that I've heard. I could hear of like 50% of the players that he brings on, and the other 50% I've never heard of are some of the greatest baseball players to ever walk through this door, because the history of Oklahoma State baseball is so deep and so rich that you couldn't swing a bat without hitting a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
There you go, pun intended. And then that'll be coming up at 5 o'clock tomorrow, so make sure you tune in for that. Should be good stuff. We'll be on at 3 o'clock for the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio.